I want to come to your group now. You have significantly invested in new businesses as well as in capacity expansion. Could you give us a quick overview of what your group has been up to over the last few years and what lies ahead for you?
So, like I said, Shrutujit, we took a contrarian view in the last 3 years and actually grew our businesses pretty aggressively. As of now, we have a $30 billion plan that's playing out. So this is not headline farming, as one could call it. This is actually, money going into the ground or groundbreaking and new teams coming together depending on the business that we're talking about. To give you a rough sense, since you and some people from the audience at least would know our different companies, it's about $10 billion for Hindalco, six for um, uh, Telecom for increasing our network of 4G and 5G. 2 billion for we've just made an acquisition in the renewable space that takes us up the pecking order in that industry by several notches. A billion for green fiber, which is fiber but now made green in terms of the energy that's being used. Another billion for carbon black. Carbon black is a specialty chemical that's used majorly in tires and anything that's black. So, say for example, ink as well. Uh, interestingly, for carbon black, for example, we are investing in increasing capacity in Hungary, in India, and Thailand. Again, going back to being close to the consumer and multi local as opposed to just being multinational. So that's quite a sweep of industries, and I think that that again is reflective of the faith that we have in the Indian economy and its future.
Kumar, I don't think anyone has ever accused you of trying to headline farm. If anything, our complaint usually is that you don't come out and say enough. But anyway, I'm very, very glad you're here today. Look, the ease of doing business and a steady and predictable regulatory regime is very critical to, um, um, you know, very critical to economic growth. You operate businesses in a number of different regulatory environments, number of different countries. How does India compare in those terms?
So that's an interesting question, and I'm glad you asked it because uh, every country, every economy has its own issues, has its own pain points, its choking points. Uh, we are putting up a large plant in an advanced economy where we were allotted land by the local authorities. We spent 6 months of intense work. Just before we were to break ground, we had to change our site because of uh, largely because of environmental reasons. So I think that we aren't the only people who have issues like this, issues like land, environment, judicial, local laws, uh, almost across the board, and we have a presence across practically across the globe. You will have issues that come up, that a lot of the times are of similar nature. Sometimes they're peculiar to the country that we're talking about. So I don't think we should be feeling particularly sort of dejected about ease of doing business. I think that, like I said, every country has its own pain points. But having said that, I think in the last decade, a lot has been done by the government. Financialization, you talk about um, tax reforms. Um, so much has happened that is digitization. And I think that the ease of doing business in the last decade has gone up tremendously compared to where we were before that.
We're seeing the use of tariffs as a key instrument of control by certain rich countries. Do you think this will lead domestic businesses to invest in overseas manufacturing capacity rather than making it here and exporting? And is that indeed the intent behind these moves?
I think that you're right. Probably that is the intent. But I don't think it works like that. I think companies would have a far more nuanced approach to investing. You can't, for example, invest in an aluminum facility in the US just because there are tariffs on aluminum exported from India, for example, theoretically. I mean, the cost structure is different, the capital required will be different, the kind of people that you require to work in that kind of environment may be there, may not be there. I don't think that's something that can practically happen. I'm saying this again because it's relevant. I think the route that we have taken, and this kind of predates what's happened in the last few years, of being local for our local customers. And I'll give you two examples. Novelis, which is the largest producer of aluminum rolled products, we are putting up for the North American market a $5 billion greenfield facility in Alabama, in a place called Bay Minette. That is to serve for aluminum rolled product supply for cans, as also for auto. Auto requires more of lightweighting, and that is being put up only to specifically serve our North American clients. It won't go and sort of move into Europe or into South America. So that's a large investment in a new economy for us relatively. We haven't made a greenfield investment of $5 billion at one location any time in the past. It's normally been more phased out. Another example is carbon black. Like I said a little while ago, we are investing. We have 16 plants in 12 countries. We've chosen to invest in three. Um, Again, logic being close to customers as opposed to manufacturing in one or two locations and distributing around the world. So that's what our response has been.
Novelis is a tremendous story. For those of you who might not be familiar, the U.S. auto industry's dependence on Novelis is so large that, when they had a fire in one of their plants, I'm reliably told that the production of Ford and many other major marquees suffered a great bit. But I think you managed to, keep the supply going, and the company recovered from it pretty quickly. You pulled the plans for Novelis to go public 2 years ago. Is it time now to revive those plans?
So, we pulled back the plans at that time because we weren't getting the kind of value discovery that we thought or hoped we would, or we were told we would. And that was the only reason why we might have
Never
wanted to.
believe bankers.
Yeah, well, I didn't say that. But there was no other reason to want to list. As of now, we are focused on commissioning this large plant I was talking about. $5 billion is a large sum of money, and I think that a lot of the future of the company depends on how fast we can commission and ramp it up and fill up capacity. We have no compulsion to do an IPO. I mean, there's no need for us to raise funds, so I don't see that happening now at all.
With your strong exposure to commodities, you're in a real financial sweet spot right now. We saw Hindalco's record profits in one quarter, 7,000 crore of net profit, quite tremendous. Congratulations. So while the business globally is doing amazingly well, your domestically, especially in aluminum and cement, you are seeing more competition. Especially in cement, you're seeing a strong player emerging by consolidating a lot of assets. What's your game plan? How do you plan to address the rising competition at home?
So, we are pretty used to competition. And I'll tell you why. My father went out and made large investments in Southeast Asia. This is large investments on the ground, not trading investments in Southeast Asia way back in the 70s. And at that time, Southeast Asia had every large player across the globe invested and playing in the market there. That gave us exposure to multi-global, multinational competition, and that has pretty much stayed in the DNA of our company. So competition is not a problem. I mean, the part of running a business, an important part is to compete and compete well. And risk taking is an important part for business leaders. You might as well not be in business otherwise. So I think our approach has been rather simple. We believe in running our own race. It's always good to have a view on competition only from the rear view mirror. But I think that we have focused on what we know best, which is running plants, which is um, investing deeply into ecosystems. If you look at the ecosystems in terms of suppliers, dealers, distributors, they're deeply penetrated in these businesses across the country. We have very deep customer relationships. We've increased capacity exponentially. I think that when you've been in industries for a long time, there is an accumulated knowledge that you have the advantage of. You have institutional memory, as I would call it. So I think that we're pretty much focused on running our own race. There is no business that's a territory of any one player. Anyone can make a foray into any business today, and I think that you have to focus on your strengths. And like I said, very deep relationships across the ecosystem, across the length and breadth of the company. Um, my father had said very famously back in 93, you know, don't be scared of competition. He meant the foreign competition then, which was just coming into the country. Don't be afraid of competition. Let the competition be afraid of you. We're not wanting the competition to be afraid of us, but we're certainly not afraid of them.
Wonderfully put. Kumar, coming to um, domestic capital markets, we are seeing some amount of exit by global investors, and you're seeing a tremendous amount of entry by domestic retail investors. What do you think this means in the long run for India's economy and its businesses?
I think that's a very positive structural change that's happened. It means that domestic investors know and understand India much more and much better, much more deeply than foreign investors. Is my broad assumption. I think that's the correct assumption to make. I think that if you don't need to depend on foreign flows and their ebbs and ebbing out and flowing back in, that's a very advantageous position to be in. You have, which means a deeper and deeper financial market, and you're sort of self-dependent on institutional investors, retail investors within the country. For foreign investors, there are so many other issues at play: valuations, currency, geopolitics, geopolitical issues. Um, I don't think they can be away for too long, and I think that in the medium term, they probably will come back into India. There's too much that's happened on the global front just now, but I think this new development or this um, sort of new positive element of growth in the economy, which makes us self-sufficient by having very deep or much deeper financial markets than we did in the past, is a very big positive.